I think with that, we just get into it. I don't even think I'm gonna give us a proper intro. I think we're just...
No proper intro?
Well, because it's just a little thing. It's just a little bonus episode. I mean, we're stripped down, obviously. It's just the two of us. But we can make it if we try. So, I will at least say welcome to you, dear listener. If you are checking this out, as I'm sure you will have surmised from the title, this is just a little bonus episode content thing that I wanted to do with my good friend Beedrops. Now that they have officially finished their first whole Kamen Rider season. Congratulations.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
I'm glad that you had a good time. We're going to get into all the nitty gritty very soon. But I do want to make sure I say up front, hey, holy shit, is this going to be full of spoilers?
Yes, this is going to be a discussion about the entirety of the Kamen Rider 01 series.
Yeah, we're not holding anything back. If you have clicked on this episode, you have acknowledged that you have seen Kamen Rider 01 in its entirety, or at least that you don't care about getting spoiled on it. So don't be upset. Don't come crying to us if you hear something you didn't want to hear, because we warned you. Like, super heavy spoiler warning. We are not gonna censor anything. It's all gonna come out.
Do not add us. We are so tired. Do not add us.
Don't fucking add us on this one. Like, for seriously. But that being said, I guess I'll give a quick intro and we'll get right on into it. I am, as always, the longtime watcher, KingFats95, and I am here with, now, I think, also honorary longtime watcher, Beedrops.
Oh, well, thank you.
I think you've earned the mantle now. You
think
finally,
so?
Well, you've got through one. You have now watched the second most Kamen Rider of anyone on the podcast.
I feel like the discrepancy between us is still so very large that
Hey, look, you think that's bad. Think about the discrepancy between me and Deer. Like, it was not but a couple of months ago that I first introduced them to the Kamen Rider, and I'm positive now that they've watched more Rider than I have.
Yeah, Deer, sampled the frosting on Kamen Rider before unhinging the jaw, and just taking
and swallowing the cake like a snake, and I'm like, yo, dog!
I'm very impressed.
It is really impressive, honestly. I wish I kind of had... I mean, I guess I do have Deer's zeal for Kamen Rider. I wish I had Deer's time for Kamen Rider. I think is the correct...
that is the only problem.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, there's just so much good stuff out there and not enough time to consume it, and I'm glad that 01 was something that I was able to commit to consuming with enough consistency and speed to actually make it through within a couple months of getting the Blu-rays.
Nice. Yeah, very... proud of you for that as well, because Lord knows I still have not actually... when I got it, I was like, I'm gonna rewatch 01 through the Blu-rays just because I can, and I have not. And I'm upset about it every time I think about it. Because I'm like, I said I was gonna.
It came in the mail, and I was, vibrating. I have to open this now, but I have things to do, but I have to open this now.
Yeah, no,
when you open, a new video game on the ride home.
Yep.
After... Yeah, you can't play it in the car, obviously.
But you open it, and you look at the discs.
You have to. Yeah, and back in the day, you'd look at the info packets.
Mm-hmm. I literally did the exact same thing. My package showed up while I was at work, and I think I was on a call, and I opened up the package anyway while I was doing stuff while I had the customer on hold, just because I was I want to look at it.
Please hold for one moment.
Yeah, I just...
the plastic crinkles.
Yeah.
I want to be that customer listening to you, thinking you just open up a bag of chips or something. Get your lays on.
There you go. Get your lays on. But yeah, so with that being said, now that you have you finished the season, I guess we'll start with what were your overall thoughts on 01, especially because I imagine this was pretty big of a jump for you. Not only it being the first Kamen Rider that you've gotten a chance to finish, but this is a big time gap from the other Kamen Rider that you were watching. You know, your first modern Kamen Rider. How did it leave you?
For some additional context, my only Kamen Rider experience has been consolidated entirely within the Showa and the Reiwa era, so I am literally at the polar opposite ends.
Yeah, literally.
The Kamen Rider timeline.
Farthest
between
possible.
Kamen Rider... Yeah, Kamen Rider Ichigo. I watched half of V3 and I haven't finished it yet. I've watched like 15 episodes of Revice, and then now I've watched 01. And I actually was under the misunderstanding initially when I went into 01 that it was made like earlier in the 2000s, like 2010 or something for whatever reason. So when I went in, I was like, this is so much like Revice though. Like, do they have like such a lockdown on the formula at this point in time?
No,
or,
that's
like,
just how
Revice
Reiwa
because
is.
it's... Yeah, I realized once I saw when 01 actually aired, that's super modern Kamen Rider. It's not necessarily like the formula of the past decade necessarily. I wouldn't truly know. But I guess my first impression was that just like, oh, this is so much like Revice. Not in a bad way, but in like everything from like the tone to the choreography to the heck, I think the first time I consciously had that exact line of thought was during the end scenes when they play the little instrumental tune and they show you
what's gonna happen on the next episode.
Yeah, not only the previews, but just when they show like various little pieces of gear that the riders use, and they just like they spin it on a table or something with like 5 seconds of instrumental, and I'm like, they do that in Revice. Points at the TV.
Yeah, Leo DiCaprio meme.
Yeah. Otherwise though, I liked this series a lot. I felt like it had a simple enough premise to I guess be understandable for children while also being pretty heartfelt. Like, I'm not going to act like robots are people actually is the most like unique premise, but it's certainly not one that doesn't get me. Yeah.
No, it 01 was definitely not like groundbreaking or innovative in its story, but I will say it was definitely unique for Kamen Rider, at least in a way. They had done something sort of similar with Drive, actually, but they hadn't gone to this exact plot point, nor did they do it through this specific set of eyes, which I thought was really interesting as well. You know, the fact that they have Aruto be, you know, CEO chairman of the company that makes the robots, and they are having him kind of be the main champion of like robots are people too sort of rhetoric is definitely an interesting change, I think, on just that genre trope as a whole. Because a lot of times, usually the person in that position is kind of like the bad guy. It's sort of the villain of the, you know, robot or people to movement. Because,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, if people see robots as people that deserve rights and stuff, and then they can't keep like building them and selling them, is at least usually how that plot point goes. So it was really interesting to kind of see in the almost a reverse way, where it was like, no, let us keep building these robots, let us keep, you know, selling them to you, let us keep helping you like make your lives better with these kind of sentient people that we make, which is a weird take, I guess, but not entirely inaccurate, I guess.
Yeah, like I do still have this mixed feeling of this portrayal of the CEO being both the person who manufactures and still literally sells people and also advocates for their humanity. It's a little dissonant, but I have to remind myself that this is a children's show and they aren't really concerned about the ethical repercussions of considering it from that angle.
Yeah.
They're just like, we make people am good.
Yeah, I will also say that they do a good point of like justifying his position. You know, with...
Especially later on, I feel.
Yeah, especially later on, but especially just initially with the whole thing about, you know, him losing his dad and having a sort of a surrogate father in one of those robots that was made to look like his father, and then losing that dad to double your sadness.
Triple sadness. Every time I see his, like, Japanese Jackie Chan looking dad, I cry.
You know, that's fair. That dude was great.
He's really got that facial structure. But anyway, yeah, it makes me so sad. Yeah. He was such a sweet man.
He was an incredibly sweet robot, and it's just it's such a good way of, like, showing, like, okay, this is why he thinks this way. This is why he's, like, #1 people's advocate for, you know, robots are people too, because that's, you know, that was his life at one point. Like, you know, despite what anything you might try to say about the situation, to him, that robot was his father, and he was as loving and as caring to him as a real father would be. So, you know, it makes sense for him to be, like, the #1 guy who's like, no, these people, you know, these robots, even if they are robots, they have hearts, they have souls, you know, they matter in a very significant way. And I also really like that they then continue that plot thread in some of how they handle some of the situations in the show. There is never a point where they're like, oh, it's, you know, if one of the robots would get hurt or something, there's never a point where he's like, oh, it's just a robot, we can just rebuild it. You know, there's always strong advocacy for, like, using the same model, making them look the exact same, making sure that you have all of their, like, learning AI information and everything stored, you know, their memories essentially, so that you can, you know, if something goes wrong and you need to do a repair or you need to do a replacement, you don't just have a new robot that has that old robot's face or whatever, or a new robot to serve that function. You essentially bring that person back. You know, the fact that that sort of thing was so important to him, I think it was a really cool and unique addition that super makes sense with the way Aruto was characterized. Speaking of, now that you know, we've gotten taste for the show overall, what did you think of Aruto, our protagonist? I
do love him. He's a goofball, and it's hard not to enjoy.
Absolute clown.
He's a very shonen protagonist kind of character, in that he's kind of a goofball, but he has that pretty uncompromisable heart of gold.
Mm-hmm.
Very much the kind of character who's, like, one of those shonen protagonists whose viewpoint was always right, and it's just a matter of having everybody else learn that through his struggles and expanding their perspectives. I guess I will say I did watch a couple reviews of 01,
mm-hmm.
Just very casually, preparing a little bit for this podcast, and some people had some very differing takes on whether they liked that or not. Like, some people wanted more divisiveness, but I've also noticed that a lot of those people wanted divisiveness in the sense that they also, I don't know, sorry, I don't want to call anybody out, but there's this one review I watched where someone was, like, very clearly not on the side of robots or people. So
cool, man.
I think you just want someone to advocate your point, maybe.
Cool, dog. Hey, I'm glad that you were able to watch the show and miss the fucking point.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think you have to agree with the point of the show necessarily, and thankfully that's not a problem in our real world that you have to deal with, but, and we're just going to throw the notion of transhumanism in the garbage for a moment for the sake of not complicating this argument into how it might actually apply to real world ethics for the moment.
Very fair.
But, yeah, I don't know, like, even with that in mind, thinking I want more, like, I want other opinions, I don't think we were lacking in them.
Yeah.
I think he just didn't want people to change their minds altogether. Like, Fua absolutely was, like, until the second arc of the show, the poster child for am not like robots.
Mm-hmm. Fua had I can't wait to talk to you about Fua. He had a great art.
I love Fua.
He's so good. He's probably legitimately one of my favorite secondary writers. I apologize, Israeli. Please continue.
No worries. Yua? Yua was her name, right? Yaiba?
Yeah, search me. This is why I have the wiki open. What the hell was her name? Yeah, Yua Yaiba.
Yua also had, like, a differing opinion. Not necessarily that robots are bad, but, like, she had a far more, like, pragmatic view of them initially. She didn't seem to advocate for them. She didn't seem to discriminate against them either, but she didn't seem to truly believe that they were, like, people.
Right, yeah.
And then you had people even within the company itself, not necessarily, you know, against Humagears whatsoever.
Right.
But similarly to Yua, they didn't see their humanity, but they were closer to Aruto in the sense that they cared very much for them.
Right.
But more so as like a product of a company.
It was kind
this
of
is
that
our project.
Yeah, that Japanese kind of craftsmanship, sort of like, I care about this because it's something that I've worked very hard on and, you know, spent a long time, you know, perfecting the creation of, and not quite I care about this because it's a person.
Yeah, so, like, I feel like Aruto was already kind of in an uphill battle with that in the first place, a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I do like how the conflict kind of, you know, reacted to and reflected Aruto's viewpoints. And I like that his kind of notion was so strong, you know, his beliefs that he had were so powerful, that it ended up even permeating into our bad guys, which is my segue into saying, what were your thoughts on our bad guys? What did you think about Metsubo Jinrai-net?
God, MetsuboGNI.net, first of all, is a mouthful.
A mouthful, but also a fucking powerful name.
It's pretty cool.
What a good-ass name for your villains, actually.
God, take a whole 5 seconds to address the friggin' terrorists in the room.
Yeah.
Just by name. I like them. I really like Jean.
Yeah.
She might be my favorite character.
Yeah, I had the feeling. I love Jin. I
love
fucking
Jin.
adore Jin's character arc. It's so good.
He's so good. Like, at first he was just kind of like he's just a little turd.
Yeah.
And I can enjoy that in a villain. He's just like a low guy who's like, I want to make friends. All the bad guys are my friends. And I especially adore that not only does his arc draw him out of behaving this way, he might have some of the most development in the whole series.
Oh, for sure.
But Aruto actually, like you said, he impresses his viewpoint on the bad guys, and they internalize it as well. And Aruto's like, you're turning other Humagear. You say every Humagear is your friend, but you're turning them into monsters.
Right, yeah.
And making them get hurt. That's not what friends do.
Yeah, that's not cool, Doc.
Yeah, and it was kind of a real wake-up call for Jean.
Yeah.
And the beginning of his rebirth in a very literal sense.
Very literal.
He dies. Literally explodes.
Yeah.
And then he comes back. That's a theme.
That's a thing that happens sometimes, is that sometimes people in Kamen Rider, they explode and then they come back.
Yeah, that's, expect that to happen several times in 01.
Yeah. People do be exploding in 01.
I did not even notice how tall Jean was until
Jin's
after
tall.
he came back, though, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
He's massive.
He's a lanky little boy.
Yeah, he had such low guy energy at the beginning. Maybe that masked it or something, and maybe also he was very lively. He had a lot of posing, and maybe that really threw off the perspective as well.
Yeah, lots of
But when he comes
poses
back,
and stuff.
he is like a full-grown man.
Yeah.
He's like
his
half a foot
pinstripe
taller
suit.
than everybody. His half pinstripe suit.
I love that suit.
I do love that suit. It's very good.
Speaking of people in Metsubo Jinrai that we like, your thoughts on Horobi?
Horobi is pretty tragic, and I kind of wish... Okay, yeah, like, emotional constipation is kind of the whole crux of being in metsubojinai.net,
A little bit, yeah.
So I can't really say, like, I wish he kind of figured it out sooner. Even though I kind of do.
No, well, sure, yeah, we all do.
We all do. I gotta say, early on, it took me a lot longer to get invested in him than Jean, mostly because
That's fair.
As the initial, like, figurehead of metsubojinai.net, a lot of his interactions early on where he shows up and everyone's like, oh, look! And then he's like, ominous, bye.
Yep.
And then you fight the underlings. So
that's Hirobi.
Which is to be expected, I guess, for any, like, antagonist commander position, as I've come to learn in Kamen Rider. That seems pretty normal. But I think most of my impressions of him do come from the final arc, which is just really, really sad. I don't know why I'm speaking vaguely. There's no point. We warned you about the spoilers. So, most of my feelings come from later on in, like, the last arc, wherein just watching two families kill each other was pretty rough.
Shit, dog, yeah, it sure is, isn't it?
I was pretty shocked at how... Don't get me wrong, it's not like this show hasn't gotten heavy before, but, like, more so in the sense of we're watching people get discriminated against and have their humanity questioned and their validity questioned at every turn. Big mood.
Yeah.
And instead, we went from that to, oh god, he's dead. Oh god, she's dead. Oh god, they're fighting. Oh
god, why are they fighting? No, please, not like this.
Please stop fighting. Oh my god.
Yeah, Kamen Rider as a whole, but especially, like, Heisei Phase 2 forward, is really good at hitting those kind of notes at a certain point, and it's always real, just gut-wrenching, heart-crushing, soul-destroying type shit. And I love it.
It was rough. I kind of didn't see it coming, because, you know, this is my first time getting this far in a modern series.
Yeah.
I was a little devastated. I was about to freaking Ash Ketchum run out there like, stop! It was horrible.
It's rough.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Yeah, I guess that'll, since we are talking about villains, we'll go over some minor villains in a bit, but we'll talk about our big bad Arc. What were your thoughts on Arc as a villain, and what were your thoughts on Arc 1 as just like a concept in a suit?
Okay, well, overall thoughts about Arc. Not in a bad way. But I do feel like Arc was just very much a generic presence. But not in a bad way, because, like, Arc being, like, a really strongly characterized villain is not remotely important.
Right.
To facilitate the story that they're trying to tell here.
And honestly,
like,
in hindsight, kind of doesn't make sense given what it is.
Yeah, like, Arc is just here as sort of a representation of, like, the I guess hatred that perpetuates the cycle of violence when it comes to I don't necessarily want to say this exclusively applies to minorities, but, you know, that is kind of the explicit angle that they're going for.
Yeah, we all know of racism parallel when we see one.
Yeah, like any minorities, you know, the cycle of hate, you get hated, resentment builds up, and it's difficult for unity to be formed between these two parties. When it's difficult to see eye to eye on each other's perspectives. And Arc is only truly here to show that exists in a very tangible form, because the concept of the cycle of violence might not be the most child accessible concept.
Shit dog, it sure might not.
Yeah. So I hadn't truly thought about it until the person I was watching with pointed this out, because they are a programmer, and this stuff is just never in my brain, ever, because I am not a programmer. But I thought it was interesting, the possible symbolism associated with, obviously 0-1, in reference to, like, binary code, and essentially, like, 0 values are false and non-zero values are true.
Oh, yes, so, that's it, yeah.
Symbolically comparing 0-1 to arc 0 could have, some potential meaning there. You can chew on that a little bit.
Oh, it's just a little nugget of potential symbolism for you to chew on.
Just a little juicy. But yeah, that transformation though, that was wild.
Yeah, I've never seen. I mean, I've seen like writer corruption arcs happen. It's not uncommon. I won't say it's like super common, but it's not uncommon. But I truly was entirely caught off guard when our first existence of I think it's arc 1 specifically ended up being Aruta. That was something that I was
did not expect that.
No, at all, but I loved it as a plot point.
It was fun, though admittedly I do have some slight qualms. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate the form, and I think Aruto having like a conflict of conscience is really interesting, especially given that he is the moral superior throughout the rest of the show. But I feel like this really should have been something given to Fua.
Yeah, no,
personally.
that does actually make sense.
Because I really thought early on that Fua's character... Sorry, I'm completely derailing into talking about Fua now.
No, it's fine. This is not... this doesn't have any kind of, like, form to it. Go off on as many tangents as you want. I wanted this to be free form.
Well, thank you. Okay. So, early on, I thought Fua had a very clear trajectory for his character arc.
Sure.
He's a character who was wronged by the Humagears in the past and holds resentment towards them, and will eventually learn that hatred is misplaced when aimed at a general populace, and he would learn to live peacefully alongside Humagear. That is just a very clear character arc for this kind of story.
Yep.
But then they retconned his backstory.
They fucked up Fool bad. Not like actually fucked up like they messed it up in the show. I mean fucked up like they wrecked his whole shit. That was so fucked. When finding that out was so startling. I was just like, holy shit, dog. You did what?
It was pretty scary, and like from the perspective of trying to follow like the story thematically from the outside, I really didn't like it.
No, that's fair.
But just from looking at it in context, I'm trying to understand what they were going for. And like, I can only come up with 2 answers, maybe. Like, either, for whatever reason, at a certain point, they wanted to say, no, Humagears never did anything wrong. Which is a really easy take to give to children. But I don't think is necessarily the best.
Yeah.
Or the other take, which I think might maybe be slightly closer to what they're going for, but not necessarily, and that this was like sort of a sympathy point they were trying to drive home, because up until this point we've seen basically this exact thing happen to a lot of synthetic people. We've seen lots of people getting hacked by the what the heck were they called? The Zetsumizers.
Yeah.
Just getting those slapped on their bodies, and then they get hacked and turned into monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very easy for us as viewers, who are all presumably humans,
Uh-huh.
not we can't truly understand the feeling of being hacked like a computer.
Right.
And we also feel like this isn't a problem for us. It's very easy to say, like, well, that's your issue,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't relate to that.
Rip to you, but I'm built different. But
yeah,
the problem is that
but
humans aren't actually built different. Yeah.
Yeah, and through Fua, we do get to see perhaps a point of sympathy, and that humans can also be hacked.
Yeah.
And perhaps that gives us a little window into how it felt to be a Humagear that got hacked into becoming a monster.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that is probably the more accurate take. Because especially from maybe a Humagear point of view, but even kind of from a normal person's point of view, I don't think it is necessarily unfair to call Fua and his philosophy and his actions kind of monstrous. I'm certainly not going to try and imply that he's like a bad person or anything, but I mean, for God's sake, we make a point of the fact that the way he transforms is he has to force his goddamn key open because it's not supposed to work for. I love it. It's the best, but also like I do think it helps kind of drive home that point of like this is kind of a scary guy if you think about some of his actions in context, and to kind of explain the notion of like the driving force that makes you what you are, the reason why you are in fact so terrifying was fucking fake. We implanted it in there so we also could have a weapon against the robots. It really does kind of, make that kind of a big sympathy point of like, you think that you are superior to robots because there are these things that, maybe can happen to robots that can't happen to you, like getting hacked. But I don't know, man, because it kind of seems like you did get hacked. You got demised worse than some of the actual Humagears in the show, because you've probably done more damage to Humagears than Humagears have actually done to you. It's
rough.
It's rough in these streets.
It's rough in these streets, for sure. I don't know, is that a good transition to talk more about transformations, or should we save that for after talking about
I was thinking that I wanted to talk about the person who does these actions to Fua, and but I did want to take a brief sojourn. I wanted to at least talk about the rest of Metsubo Jinrai Net, specifically yes. Naki and Igazuchi. At least I just wanted to make sure we at least touched on them, especially just because I do think Naki's inclusion is very cool in the show.
Yes,
from like an outside looking in perspective, I know it is one of those things that is largely lauded against, that a lot of times in order to get non-binary representation in a show they have to be like a robot or an alien or something. So I get that like that part's not great, but the fact that their actor is also non-binary as well is still incredibly cool. And I actually just really like Naki as a character in general.
Naki is really cool. Yeah, I enjoy Naki.
As just conceptually as a character, I really like Naki, and I liked the way their character arc kind of went. Going from being this thing that was kind of just meant to control Fua to like really being able to empathize with him and sympathize with him because of the fact that they had been in his brain for so long. And I think, part of the things that they had experienced from Fua's point of view, helping to change their point of view as well, and kind of shape the actions that they would take when they rejoined Metsubo Jinrai Net. Yeah, I don't know. I really ended up liking Naki a lot, and
yeah,
I wish Ikazuchi had done more.
Oh God, yeah. Like, I guess for Naki, the moment that Naki and Fua were on the exact same wavelength and had like a really cool like the power of friendship moment was so cool. Don't know what else to say about Naki. Love you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I do wish Naki had been in the show a little bit longer. Yeah. It sucks that they didn't show up until like truly like the last 10-ish episodes. or something.
Yeah. But at least we got something at least, but yeah. I guess that's what happens when a character is introduced through a twist, I guess. As for Kazuchi, God, that guy was almost my favorite character, maybe.
No, that's fair.
Like, when he first shows up, and he's just this really brash astronaut. Also, not to mention, just the joke that introduces him amused me to no end, that when the satellite beams down the cycle, the motorcycle
right,
that Naruto rides when he's transformed.
Somebody's gotta go load one of those motherfuckers back in.
Yeah, like, this isn't like a hard light projection or anything. This isn't like a magical power. No, it is literally shot down from a satellite orbiting the planet. So somebody has to put it back up into the satellite every single time. And that person is Ikazuchi and his little brother.
It's
just so funny.
It's so
and
funny.
Like, when Naruto just summons it because he's running late for work, Ikazuchi says, "I'm going to go kill him." And he comes down to Earth. And it's so good.
I'm gonna fucking break his knees. How dare he do this to me?
Yeah, it's so good. I'll admit I was pretty surprised about the twist of him being a undercover agent for Metsubojinai.net, completely unbeknownst to himself. They just make spies that good these days.
Yeah.
And I was sad that he blew up right after that, but whatever, they brought him back.
But we can...
That's the theme.
Yeah. We can rebuild him. We have the technology.
So thankfully he came back. He didn't really do much after coming back, though, but...
Yeah, no. It's, you know, it is what it is. We just kind of needed to establish our Metsubojinai net group.
Yeah, and I also feel like I'd be remiss to say that, you know, there are parts of the pacing that feel real weird at the very end, and I have since learned that is entirely due to the pandemic hitting.
Yeah, no,
during the end of the
sense.
Production of the show, so that's why. So please cut them a little slack.
Gosh, yeah, I never even thought about that when I was like thinking in hindsight, because there are a lot of parts of Saber specifically. It's kind of well known that there are parts of Saber that like had to be changed to accommodate the fact that they were filming during the pandemic, and so that's like super widely well known knowledge. But it is one of those things where I think it's easy to forget that the pandemic did kind of start at the end of 2019 and started becoming like a real big issue going into the beginning of 2020. And these shows usually end around, you know, the beginning of the next year anyway, so it would make sense that that sort of thing might have marred production a little bit. Yeah, no, I think I do want to go to our next bad guy now. A character I ended up liking a lot. But in both forms of his existence, just because I think he was very effective in his initial appearance as a villain, and then, you know, when he gets redeemed, I think it was also still very effective. I actually did really like his redemption arc, and also I'm just a really big fan of his suit. Amatsu Guy. What were your thoughts on old Thouser?
Presented by Zaya.
Presented by Zaya.
That phrase lives rent-free in my brain.
No, that's fair.
Okay, well, first of all, I do have some mixed feelings about his introduction arc. Mostly because that arc... I don't know, I don't hate the corporate war arc, but I don't really feel like it did a whole lot to progress the plot coming off of the Metsubojinai arc at the beginning. And
no, that's very fair.
It got repetitive pretty quick. I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy it, though. I personally got really invested in every single one of those Humagear that got brought into the competition.
Mm-hmm.
I would die for each and every one of them. I'll admit, though, I was really disappointed that Guy did not stick to his code of honor. That didn't really make sense to me. The fact that he would say, no cheating, I have to win this fair and square because I'm just that superior, I'm just going to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, not only does he explicitly cheat at the end openly in the episode, but also when later things are revealed, and you learn that Naki is the one putting the Zetsumizers on everybody during that arc, then it's like, wait, so you were sabotaging the competition from the beginning then, Guy?
Yeah, come on, Guy.
Because Naki is under your control at this point in time. So, I don't know. I think that's a shame. But I think he has a fun presence,
Mm-hmm.
and I shamefully must admit that his redemption made him a character that I'm unfortunately a little bit weak for. I am quite fond of that kind of character of, like, guy with the most punchable face possible, who also has a really adorable charm point.
Mm-hmm.
Which is Thouser.
Which is Thouser.
Not the Kamen Rider.
Thouser, the world's most perfect robot dog.
I love you, Thouser. I love that little guy, and I'm so sad that we didn't get more of him.
He's the
like,
best.
It was a very fast redemption arc. I wish they took their time on it a bit more,
Mm-hmm.
like they did with Yaiba's. Though I kind of wish Yaiba's was actually a tiny bit faster.
Yeah.
Like,
I had the same thought while watching the show. Like, there's the episode where she finally quits Zaya.
Which is a real highlight moment.
Yeah, absolute highlight moment. But,
series.
like, when it actually happened, like, as I was watching the episode, my main thought was, well, damn, girl, took you long enough.
Yeah, like, we've literally been spending, I'm going to lowball and say, like, 15 full episodes
Something
of
like that,
Fua
yeah.
making it his whole mission to go and beat up Yaiba every day until she comes to her senses. In every single episode during that arc, I feel real bad because she's, like, so sidelined during this because this is drawn out so long.
Mm-hmm.
To where, like, her whole appearances every time during that part of the series are just, like, being in a constant moral panic 10 feet in the background.
Yeah, that is the thing, is they always make sure to make a point to acknowledge that Yaiba is not necessarily comfortable with everything that's happening, but they don't ever establish clear leverage as to why she doesn't leave.
For a very, very long time, until, like, the very end, when they're like, oh, you know that thing we did to Fua? Well, Yaiba's got it too.
Yes, that's right, okay. I totally forgot about that, legitimately.
Because they didn't really do much with it.
Yeah.
Like, suddenly a guy could do the supersonic brain hurt button at her and Fua to an extent. Though it's not like she had another person in her brain like Fua had Naki inside of him. She just had her juice chip in her brain, I guess, which I assume is what most people normally get if they're being given that microchip in order to transform into a rider, which is the reason they had it in the first place. But I don't know. I feel like that just really dragged on. I was tired of seeing her make the same faces every time she was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And but on the flip side, Guy was literally redeemed in one episode.
One episode by a robot
we
dog.
We showed his pet dog. Yeah, like, his dad's like, you got 100 on your test, why not 1,000? Bro, what?
Bro, are you insane?
And then he was like, I can't play with my robot dog that I love anymore because I can't get 1,000 on my test and my dad's mad at me. And, like, God, I know it is just supposed to be like, we are really trying to emphasize that he is a dad with very high expectations that he could never possibly meet, but just the line of him explicitly saying, "Why didn't you get 1,000 on your test?" will never not be funny to me.
It's insane. It's so fucking funny.
Like, this goes beyond parental expectations being too high into the actual you have lost touch with reality territory.
Yeah, sir, please, I need you to understand. You are asking for things that are literally not possible.
Like, I don't know. I love Thouser the dog, though. I would do anything to be hired to work in the Thouser department.
Hell yeah. I would live in the Thouser division if I could.
I would live in the Thouser division. What else is there to say about Gaiamatsu?
Yeah.
I love the complete 180 between the second and third arc in the second arc, we get the repetitive nature of him coming to kick Aruto's ass every single episode.
Yeah.
And then in the third arc, we cannot stop wailing on this old man.
We beat his shit in every chance we get.
Like, we are really getting it in. We're
like, oh, you're a good guy now?
Let's
just kick you right into the dirt.
Like, he's not even a good guy anymore, but, like, he's just an angry old fart who also owns both companies now. So we're just going to beat him up. And, like, I also just couldn't help but have the thought during that arc, while everyone kept coming to beat him up, I'm like, how many Zaya employees are just, like, really tired of not being able to get to their cars while all these rider fights are happening in the Zaya company parking garage?
Fucking parking lot. How many people are just standing there, like, in the waiting room with their keys, looking at their watches, like, I was supposed to be home an hour ago.
God, like, dinner is cold. President, please.
The fucking guy's at it again with his friends in the parking lot.
Getting this 50-year-old man getting beaten down in the corner.
That was such a wild plot point. I don't know why they didn't just make him young.
He literally says youth is wasted on the young, and I never wanted to punch him so hard.
God.
He so perfectly fits that stupid category of world's most punchable man who
Truly.
Also has an endearing trait.
Truly the world's most punchable man. But
so I love him, and I shouldn't.
But if you punch him, how's he gonna play with his robot dog?
I think he can manage. I saw how many beatings he could take and limp away in his... Oh my god, his exploded outfit. I love it. He has specifically a version of one of his outfits that is all, like, damaged from battle and wear. And they put that same exact outfit on him every time he gets his ass beat in the third arc. And it's so funny.
It's very funny. Oh, guy.
You've heard of an ass-kicking outfit, but have you heard of...
an ass-kickie's outfit?
It's a quality.
It is. Speaking of ass-kickers and ass-kickies, let's talk about our two secondary writers, as it were, or our secondary and our tertiary, Isamu Fua and Yoa Yaiba, Kamen Riders of Vulcan and Valkyrie.
Well, we already touched a bit on Vulcan Fua's transformation, but I can't overstate how much I love how, like, tilted and aggressive and violent and, like, sounds like a grunt on the other bathroom stall his transformation is. I love it. Like, he's...
Literally the first time I saw him transform, I was like, oh, B's gonna love this guy.
He's hilarious. I love it. Like, he's like screaming like a Super Saiyan, trying to, like, open up his devices to transform. He literally punches bullets.
Yes, I love punching Kong. I love that he does a fucking spinning back fist to transform.
It's crazy. I love it. He, like, and especially when you get to later episodes when you see a lot more, like, multi-transformations where people are standing side by side and transforming at the same time. For what makes me lose my mind, because everybody else is pretty, like, I don't want to say reserved, but his energy is so off the charts compared to everybody else. Because, like, even even, I would say, like, 01's is probably the next most energetic transformations generally, with the grasshopper hopping around all over the place to various extents, depending on what transformation it is. And Fua's over here, like, doing, like, triple backflips, and then he, like, shoots his gun in the air, and then the bullets fly back at him, and he's, like, punching the bullets, and it's crazy.
It's fucking insane!
It is so ridiculous, and I love it. You can only get this in Tokusatsu.
You
Completely
really can.
unironically, it is the coolest thing ever, and they know it.
It's so good. I loved Fua's transformations so much. It was just,
I love it.
It was a delight every time I got to see him transform.
Also, he kind of reminds me of Pepsi Man.
Explain?
Like the palette. It's extremely Pepsi Man.
Okay, yeah, you're right. It's exactly Pepsi Man's palette, actually. You are correct about that.
It's Pepsi Man with a face, and also he's a Kamen Rider.
Pepsi Man is my favorite
with a
Kamen
gun.
Rider.
Yeah, Pepsi Man got a gun, and now he's a Kamen Rider. That's Kamen Rider Vulcan for you.
That's Kamen Rider Vulcan for you. I know we talked a little bit about his whole plot thing, but what did you think about his story as a whole? And I think, because this is probably one of the ones that, like, I'm a little confused about it, but also in hindsight, it sort of makes sense. So I'm interested to hear what your take is on it.
Well, I still have those mixed...
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I was going to say specifically about his decision to not go home, but please, just talk about your thoughts on Fua as a whole, and his whole arc.
Yeah, like I said, I do have mixed feelings about them retconning his backstory. Because I felt like he had a really clean, clear trajectory initially outside of that, and then that just kind of got wiped away. And I'm trying to spin the positive ankle on that was supposed to be his point of sympathy and understanding the Humagear.
Yeah.
And that this is like a legitimate vulnerability and not an inherent, like, moral failing on their part.
Right.
Because it could happen to you too. Yeah. But I'll admit, I don't have a strong opinion about him not going back to his family outside of, like, a recognition of how tragic that is. Because how much does he remember these people?
Right.
His memory was, like, completely wiped, and he thought his family died when he was a child.
Yeah.
So, like, is this even the family he remembers? Like, did they program in a different family that died in his brain? Does he know these people?
That's a good question, because, yeah, now that I think about it, I remember part of the fake backstory was that his dad was like in some way partially responsible for stopping the Humagears from destroying the rest of whatever that town was called that I can't remember the name of right now. But I remember it being like his dad supposedly sacrificed himself during that in order to stop that, and I'm pretty sure it was, like, because we see the videos of the dude and everything. I'm pretty sure
that was a different character.
Yeah, it was a different guy. Yeah, so
yeah, that wasn't Fua's dad. That was this random kid. We had an episode about it for lore expansion during the first arc. And slight tangent, I absolutely adore the Humagear in that episode. She was just a bus tour guide.
Yes, the bus tour lady.
Like,
she was
turned
great.
detective, because she's like, I have to give the most accurate information during my bus tours, so I have to uncover the secret conspiracy truth of this horrible tragedy.
Gotta go above and beyond.
She was so cool, and I loved her.
There were a lot of great Humagears.
Yeah, but that was just, like, a completely different guy. So, like, the only possible link that I have between
Excuse me.
Fua actually remembering his actual family is just the fact that Fua has a silly sense of humor.
Yeah, he has his dad's sense of
silly
humor.
Bad jokes. Yeah, and we see that his dad has that same sense of humor, and I don't know. I don't know. Because, I mean, what would they remember Fua? Like,
Well, everything,
he
right?
got a job a few years ago and never came home. Like, is he presumed missing? Did
No,
he
they have lines
tell
about
them
that.
he'll never come home?
Yeah,
Oh, did they?
they say that he said that like because of his work he was staying away because I'm pretty sure they know he works for Ames. And so, if I'm right, they
But they
said there's. I don't remember the exact lines, but there's definitely some line where they say like, oh, it's a shame that Fua isn't at the house anymore because of his work or whatever. Hope we get to see him again.
but like it's been presumably at least a couple years since he's gotten this job, and unless they have some sort of like automated system that sends out an email every couple months or something, I don't know. Like, wouldn't you be a little suspicious if you went a few years without hearing from your loved ones? Like, wouldn't you be like, hey, just shooting you a text, how are you doing? How's the job?
Yeah, no, I mean that's fair. I do at least attempt to check in on my brother, even though he's not great about talking to us. But every now and then, or at least I'll think about him. But it's there's definitely an extent where you could go a decently long time without thinking about another person if you think you understand their situation. But there does come a bridge too far where you would probably send at least something.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say this as the person who is that person who doesn't contact enough. I am absolutely that person who doesn't generally casually check in very much. But bare minimum, I do message on holidays and birthdays.
Right.
Which means at least several times a year. Like probably at least once every other month, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder. I mean, you think about this company was big enough to fucking brainwash a dude. They probably send fake updates.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, I might be overthinking this, I don't know, but I feel like they bothered to make this conspiracy, so I want to see it fleshed out.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I don't remember if they made the Vulcan movie or not. I don't think they have yet, but maybe we'll get some sort of a Vulcan movie that we'll talk about that or something.
That would be cool.
That'd be nice. They are pretty good about like usually making some sort of like a V cinema to you tie up perceived loose ends in a secondary or tertiary writer's story.
Valkyrie.
Yeah, thoughts on Valkyrie.
Complete polar opposite to Vulcan's transformation. I also love it. God, that little flourish she does
spin?
With her hand. Yeah, so good. I was so sad that it didn't return later in the series.
It's very supremely good, yeah.
It was so good, and I loved her presence particularly in the first arc of the story because she was the professional. She was the person who knew how to be a Kamen Rider and was the most, like, trained, efficient, competent person in the room at any given time. In hindsight, this show has 50 billion transformations, for better or worse.
Yeah.
I think it depends entirely on your preference. And I'm a little sad that she got so few compared to 01 and Vulcan.
Yeah, and I think I understand why it ended up going the way it did, just because I feel like they probably wanted to focus on Metsubo Jinrai Net a little more, but they're usually a lot better about at least trying to make sure, like, tertiary writers are at least on par with everyone else in some way, especially in terms of strength. So they would. It's weird that we never saw her get a proper power up. Like, she gets Striking Hornet, but that's not really a...
And Jackal.
Yeah, that's... Striking Hornet's not really a power up. Jackal is kind of just like a different suit. it was stronger, but not significantly enough to be like something that she could go to if the level of threat got raised.
Yeah, and it was also kind of a thematic transformation that might feel weird if she uses it now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. But she definitely lagged behind Fua and Aruto quite a bit in terms of just the sheer number of transformations they were given.
Yeah.
And I know they had more screen time, but I don't understand why they had to have more screen time than Yaiba.
It's a weird look. It's especially a weird look coming from some other Kamen Riders that have even like bigger casts, but still make a point of keeping everyone on around about the same power level and like making sure everyone's got at least like 1 or 2 power-ups that they can go into. It's strange that Yaiba got kind of fallen by the wayside there in that way.
Yeah, and even I think all the Metsubojindai.net people had a similar amount of transformations between, like, a lot of them got a power-up at some point, or they were they had an arc version or both.
Yeah.
But yeah, but Thouser got nothing, which really surprised me.
Thouser, I believe, is getting something, if has not already received something. So there was like, I think there was one movie that has, it was either like a movie or a mini series that was called like, it was called like President's Clash or something like that. I don't remember the exact name of it. Essentially, the premise is there have been multiple Kamen Riders who are bad guys and also were the CEOs of a company. We're gonna make them fight. So I think he got something in that. And then it looks like there's another movie that is coming up soon. That is supposed to be, it's that presence again, but slightly different. And supposedly I believe he's getting a new form in that, because one of the returning bad guys is definitely getting a new form.
If I might backstep a little bit. Yeah, backtrack. Words, yeah. Speaking of Thouser and Guy, I was curious if you could elaborate on something for me, or I don't think I understand Guy's motivations. So he is a rival company, or he is the CEO of a rival company, right?
Yeah.
And he has an invested interest in proving the superiority of humans over Humagears. And he is also invested in basically giving people the ability to all turn into Kamen Riders.
Mm-hmm. So yes and no. And the and no part is kind of why I like his redemption arc so much. So my thought is, so here's the thing. The whole kind of like denying Humagears and being like, we have to get rid of Humagears, we have to destroy Humagears, and then, you know, we don't need Humagears to be safe when we can turn ourselves into Kamen Rider thing, is, I think, at least the way I understood it is, it is supposed to be like a smear campaign against hidden intelligence to kind of lower their, kind of literally lower their stock. You know, because he wants to prove that Zaya is a better company than hidden intelligence, because he wants to prove that he can be good president, because he wanted to be the president of hidden intelligence, but he was never given the job. I don't know if you quite remember this, but it's only ever briefly touched upon that he actually used to work at Hidden Intelligence, and he knew Aruto's grandfather, and he was like, very, very much so into it. That's, like I said, it's why I kind of like his redemption arc, because there was a period of time, there was a version of Amatsugai who very much so loved Hidden Intelligence and cared about it as a company and wanted it to be successful. And to that end, he was very invested in wanting to be president of the company. And when he lost out on that opportunity, he soured, went somewhere else and wanted to try and prove himself. And so I like that it is the use of Thouser that kind of reminds him, like, hey, what the fuck am I doing? Trying to, like, destroy this company and, like, run it into the ground and, like, get rid of their main product line and everything. I love these people. They've given me my only friend in this life. This company used to be so important to me, and now all of a sudden I'm on, like, essentially the wrong side of history trying to destroy it because of a job I got snubbed on.
Okay.
At least that's how I always interpreted it. Because again, it is brief, but it is just long enough that if you remember it, I feel like it does kind of tie all of those threads together of, like, if you do think about the fact that, like, the first thing he said, I think it is literally, like, one of the first things he says to Aruto is about how much he loves Hidden Intelligence, or how much he, like, used to love Hidden Intelligence. So, when you think about his everything then going forward from that kind of theory point of, like, the slandering against the Humagears, the competition, the cheating in said competition, etc., etc., it suddenly becomes this thing where it's like, what are you doing? That doesn't make any sense. I thought you loved this place. And, all it takes is one little nudge to remind him, like, hey, these people are important to you. You love this place. Remember Thouser, your dog? Remember that they're the ones who gave that to you? And as soon as he does, he's like, I gotta fucking help. I need to stop what I'm doing and just, like... And he does, like, super immediately, like, right all of the wrongs that he does. He gives the company back. I think he releases... I believe he releases control of Fua's brain thing. He, like, tells him what's going on and everything.
Yes. I do remember that scene where he, like, brings Yaiba and Fua into his office, and he's like, hey, my bad. Yeah. And they were like, bro, are you kidding?
It is kind of funny in hindsight, but, like, the fact that he walks it all back immediately as soon as he's reminded of, like, essentially what's really important, I did enjoy about his character arc.
Yeah, it is good. Yeah, I guess it's just a difficult perspective to get a grasp on, and thank you for the elaboration. I think that makes a whole lot of sense. He's just... The idea of just, like, loving something so... Or, I guess, wanting to possess something so much that you hurt it in the process of your acquisition of it, and when you open your hand, you realize you've half crushed it to death.
Right, exactly. And you look down in your palm and you go, oh no, what have I done?
Oh no, baby.
Thouser, no!
Thouser! God, please hire me. I think that was the moment that I was like, oh no, I love this character.
Yep.
Was the moment you see him down in that basement and he's basically working off of a cardboard box, but he's still in his, like, freaking Gucci sweater drinking out of his fancy china.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got all the little Thousers, and he's got the little name plaque on his cheap-ass freaking cork desk. And I was like, this man is impeccable.
It absolutely cannot be stopped. We tried stopping him and it didn't work.
He is too posh.
Too much posh.
Too much posh, yes.
Yeah, no, it's... Guy is wonderful in the worst of ways.
Yeah, he's the worst and we love him for it.
Yeah.
Oh, other writer and member of NetsuboGNI.net that we haven't talked about. Little Assassin.
Oh, Dodo.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking about mentioning Dodo when I brought up Ikazuchi, because Ikazuchi does end up using the Dodo Progress key, but I decided I would save that conversation for probably when we started talking about Humagears. Which, here, that now we have a segue. Tell me your thoughts on Dodo.
Segue. I loved Dodo. That was such a cool little arc.
Yeah, Dodo was super interesting. That was definitely a great little bit that they did. And I loved the justification for how come we keep having the same monster of the week. Well, it's because it's not.
Because we had a bunch of them.
Because we made sure we had 20 of these motherfuckers.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dodo was a great little arc, and I really loved the whole bit of just like every time he came back, he was a little bit stronger, and so it started becoming more and more difficult to defeat him. That was a cool way of kind of really working up the power scaling of just like the show overall.
I feel like that was like the first real beginnings of Jean's character arc as well.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, because a lot of what happens to Jin is kind of predicated off of his thoughts and feelings about what is happening to Dodo. You know, how they keep bringing him back and like keep sending him out, and then he keeps getting destroyed, and they keep bringing him back.
And then he becomes a traitorous monster.
Yep. I love it when a bad guy turns into a traitorous monster.
I do love it. It is very good. And also, I must admit that the final form of Dodo is pretty scary looking. Like, up until that point, I was like, this silly guy's back again.
Mm-hmm.
And then he comes back looking like some sort of, like, executioner. He was scary.
Yeah, no, for sure. Dodo was real spook.
Not an animal I tend to associate with fear.
Yeah, I will say that was definitely very, very cool, because when I first saw that it was gonna be a Dodo for the key, I was like, that's a weird choice, especially for a bad guy. But you know, all right, I'll leave you to it. And boy, did that end up being the right choice.
Oh, it was scary. Or they'd made it work somehow. I don't know what's more true, but
I mean, you can count on the Toku people. They know what they're doing. They will make it work. Oh, go ahead.
But yeah, you wanted to transition into talking about the Humagears?
Yeah, I was just about to say that. That being said, let us speak about some of the other Humagears now. Just kind of what are your thoughts on the Humagear as a whole? You know, did you have a favorite? You know, just tell me your thoughts about the Humagear.
Oh. Asking if there's a favorite is hard, because I feel like every other time I look at one, I'm like, oh, I love that one. It's way harder to pick a favorite. I was going to say harder to pick a favorite than one I don't like, but I'm like, wait, which ones don't I like?
I'm trying to think of one I don't like.
I guess I don't have strong feelings positively towards Az.
I do not remember Az at all. You're gonna have to.
Azu, the one that looks like Is but works for Arc.
Oh right, yeah. I didn't know much. Is that like a movie thing? I assume that's a movie thing, right?
No, it wasn't.
No, it's literally just
at the end of the series.
Well, because I remember her showing.
She
up.
is in the movie too.
Yeah, that was the thing.
She is first appearing in the show itself.
Okay, huh?
And the final arc, she just shows up at the end out of nowhere, and they're all like, "Who the hell are you?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm like Arc's secretary. Hi," and I'm like, was Izu's actress really needing some more role for some more money or
something? I don't know. Yeah, I when she showed up, because she really does just show up out of the blue in the show.
Yeah, Metsubo G9.net is literally like, who the hell are you and why are you in our house?
Yeah, so I just assumed that this was like movie context that I was missing, but I guess not. Apparently,
No, I I don't know. I don't know why she's here. I can only assume it is for the actress to do something or get a little more money. But shrug, like I I feel like the most that she adds to this story is the ability to punch the heart and emotionally manipulate Aruto when he goes through his corruption arc and she's there like trying to convince him that she's Izu after she had been murdered.
right?
And Aruto is going through these horrible phases between looking at her and seeing Iz and also telling her, I don't know who you are, leave me alone.
Yeah, poor Aruto. It was rough for him in these streets on the back half of that show.
Very much.
They were like, what if we just fucked with your whole shit, dog?
Please don't. He is a good boy.
I'd really prefer if he didn't. But here's the problem: is he is a protagonist writer, which means there is always going to be a point at some point where they have to fuck with his whole shit. That's just the life of protag writers.
I'm so sorry.
I am too, and also I'm not because it's good entertainment.
It is very fun.
Makes good ass TV, hurts. But yeah, shit dog do it hurt.
Oh, I guess that might be a good segue to talk about Iz. I guess Iz. Yeah. I never know what to call her.
I always just kind of call her Izu.
I love her.
She's great.
I really like her dynamic with Aruto. Granted, I feel like in general the character chemistry in the main cast is pretty good.
Super solid. I really appreciated the running gag of her explaining his bad jokes.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
I really love them as a comedy duo, and I want to see them. I was really hoping that they'd actually have them, like, perform a comedy show, even if just for, like... Well, I thought The Company, but they don't work for Hidden Intelligence anymore, nope. So, I don't know. Just out front.
Lay shrug, yeah. Just out and about doing it.
Yeah. It's all I wanted, but, you know, whatever. They do lots of little bits throughout the show, so it's not like you're left wanting too much. Did you watch the movie? Did you watch Realize?
No, I have not seen Realize yet. At the time when I was watching... Okay. Yeah, because I was watching 01 as it was coming out, essentially, so... a little more difficult to get your hands on the movie then, and have not touched my Blu-ray copy since I received it, unfortunately. So,
okay, so I won't spoil anything from that movie. This will be main series exclusive, but I will say, Izu's storyline is continued in the movie, and I think, if for no other reason, you really should check it out for that.
It's something I've been. If I recall correctly, there should probably be 2 movies. Does the Blu-ray only come with the one?
I don't know. There are some special features that I hadn't gotten to yet. Like, I'd watched the series, that movie, Realize, and there was like some recap episodes that I never finished, and that's sort of where I fell off.
I wonder if they've got the mini anime as well.
I don't believe so.
Oh, that's a shame.
But I have been told I should go check them out.
They're very fun. I haven't watched all of them, but I've watched a couple of them.
I've only been able to find one, and it was really cute.
It's really cute, is the thing.
So cute is the thing, and I'm love them all.
I'm trying to... Don't show me the characters, just tell me what's come out. Manga video game cast release...
But since this Blu-ray came out at the beginning of the year, there's a chance that it might be missing something.
Yeah, because it probably doesn't have... I doubt if it has any of the, like, President specials or anything like that.
I don't believe so.
Shame, but not unexpected. The fact that we can get what we can get for... Here we go. Reiwa the First Generation, Kamen Rider 01 Real Time, and then 01... Okay, they have already done movies. Yeah, there's 2 01 Others movies. 01 Others Kamen Rider Metsubo Jinrai, and 01 Others Kamen Rider Vulcan and Valkyrie. And I'm going to just assume those are not included in the Blu-ray, which is fine.
Yeah. I'm just happy to have it.
Yeah. Happy that, again, like really, truly, to be able to have what we do have accessible here in the West is an insane boon. So I'm certainly not going to look a gift horse in the mouth.
Opens that horse jaw up. Let me see.
See them chompers, boy. How your teeth looking?
But I feel like they did a really good job making all of the Humagears just really especially endearing.
Yeah.
Really packed it all in. Oh, while we're here, perhaps we should talk about that special fun trivia we found just last night about MC Check It Out.
I was thinking about that as well, yeah. So if you've watched 01, which you should have if you're listening to this, if you're listening to this and you haven't watched 01, go away. But if you watch 01, you will remember everyone's favorite Twitter moment a couple of months ago, DJ Check It Out, who was a Humagear who was... I never know in this specific context whether I should say African American or just African.
I don't know. I don't know where he was born.
I don't know where he was born. He was born in Japan.
Well, I don't know. Black Japanese.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
African Japanese.
He is a dark-skinned gentleman.
We apologize for our ignorance.
I never... Once upon a time, I never even conceptualized that there were black people not in the United States, so it's just kind of one of those things.
Black people live everywhere, and that's wonderful.
Yeah. And this actor is one of them. Well, what is his name again? Let me go double check. It's Jun something.
Jun Soejima.
Thank you. Yes. Well, it turns out Jun Soejima has himself a little bit of a legacy in Kamen Rider acting. We found out that last night as we were recording the regular podcast episode that his father, Willie Dorsey, who was, I guess, actually now that I'm remembering this part specifically, I guess African American would have been correct because his father was U.S.
born and married in Japan. Yeah.
His father, Willie Dorsey, was an American-born African American. He married in Japan, and he plays in an episode of the original Kamen Rider, where he plays the shocker leader of Morocco, Muhammad. So his dad shows up in episode 68 of the original Kamen Rider, and then almost 50 years later, the son shows up as DJ Check It Out in 01, which is super cool.
It's so cool. I can't believe it. The legacy.
Yeah. I of course was just happy to see a black guy in Kamen Rider in the first place, but the fact that they were both
absolutely
related is just like, what are the odds, right?
Yeah, like they really keep everybody in contact, I guess, or something.
Either that,
really
either
cool.
that or it was just like a crazy coincidence.
Unless they were like, hey, calling for, I don't know, we're calling for actors who want to portray a role in Kamen Rider, and June's dad was like, oh, hey, I was in Kamen Rider once.
Maybe. Who knows?
I don't know. I don't know, but it's just a really cool piece of trivia that makes me very happy. MC Check It Out also makes me very happy.
MC Check It Out was great.
That guy that guy showed up and I was like, whoa! Yes!
I guess, I don't know. As I mentioned, there were a lot of people talking about the whole DJ Check It Out bit, and how they didn't like how it was handled in the story. And like every time I read one of those takes on it, it just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, because like essentially everyone was like, "Boy, fucking Toei was real racist with this one," which like, what? Japan being racist? No way! Japan's never been racist. Like truly, I do not know what you were expecting, but also, I don't think they made any moves about TJ Check It Out's arc that were like significantly out of character for anyone at that point in time.
I feel like his arc was incredibly in line with literally every other Humagear in that arc. That was the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, the main thing that people point out is the fact that, like, I think when he initially starts accusing the whoever his opponent is, which I truly do not remember. I remember this was the politics battle.
He was just a random politician.
Yeah, it's just some dude, and he accuses him of like bribery or something.
Yeah, he had proof too.
Yeah, which, if I recall correctly, that proof gets like corrupted or falsified or something, right?
Or something. I can't remember. I think they played it off as like the idea that it could be falsified, or like you have no reason to truly believe.
But yeah, so
what you're seeing here.
Like, people are like upset that Aruto doesn't just like believe him like right from the jump, but like even that makes sense in character for where Aruto was at that time. Like, that specific battle is kind of like the peak of Aruto's stress pre like corruption arc, pun intended. So it would make sense. Like, Aruto is doing a lot of stuff that is like kind of out of character at that point in the show anyway. So it would just make sense for him to like not necessarily believe DJ Check It Out, or just want to try and resolve the situation another way so he doesn't give Zaya a chance to make Humagears look worse on TV or anything. So it's just like I saw some of those takes and I was like, did we watch the same show, y'all? Like, they literally just had him do the same thing that all of the other robots do.
I don't want to tell people, what they want from their own representation, because I don't have a hat in this specific ring. That's not really up to me to decide. But as an outsider, I enjoyed DJ Check It Out. I didn't really feel like his characterization was out of line from the other Humagears, in which the steps were basically show that you're competent, get discriminated against, be upset about it,
turn into
get
robot.
Corrupted.
It literally followed that exact same flowchart. So and admittedly, I do not know the ethnicities of the people who were complaining on Twitter about this whole thing, but just based off of what little interactions I have had and things I have seen, it wouldn't probably be incorrect to assume that they were like white or something, and that definitely colored that helped to color my thoughts in a more negative light, because it's like, you don't even go here.
Yeah, and I mean, thoughts of representation are always going to differ. Like, for instance, I don't know, something in my camp. I could say, I like Naki, thank you for being here. Other people can, say, and you elaborated on this earlier, and it's true, a lot of non-binary representation is disproportionately non-human. And I am kind of very much in the boat of, I love non-human characters, and I love representation, and I understand that we need more human representation, but I am not going to resent non-human representation.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, no, I certainly get that. I don't know, it's just, like, I personally, thinking back to those episodes, I had no issues with the way the whole DJ Check It Out situation panned out. And then I think also the big issue too was that it really seemed to be like apropos of nothing. Like, people just, like, started talking about it for some reason. And being like, oh.
I think because it just feels like it stands out, maybe, because it's not like we generally see a wealth of racial diversity in mainstream Japanese media that we consume in the West.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. So yeah, maybe that was what it was. Just it kind of stood out. Maybe it was at a point where people were starting to actually get to that point in their own watches of 01 from the Blu-rays, maybe, or on Chat Factory or what have you. Yeah, maybe it was just kind of one of those perfect storm sort of things that brought it to the forefront of people's minds, and they started talking about it. But essentially, from my viewpoint, I was having a normal one, and then while scrolling on Twitter, I got bombarded with a bunch of people's bad race takes, and I was like, I don't want to see this.
I like to look at it from a positive perspective, and I'm not going to say this isn't warranting any criticism or anything, because again, this isn't my ring to throw a hat in, but I did like the idea of, like, I'll just get this out of the way first and foremost. Robots don't tend to be racial minorities in media.
No, yeah, that's so entirely fair, yeah.
So that's cool. You don't see a lot of dark-skinned robots, and I thought that was super cool. I love how diverse the Humagear tend to be in appearance, because a lot of media has all robots fit into, like, standard beauty norms of whatever culture they're in, whereas, like, Humagear are as diverse as humans. They look like anything, and it's wonderful.
It's great, yeah.
And I don't mean to be rude to actors by pointing this out. Personally, I thought it was cool. Some Humagears even have acne.
Yeah. No, I
that's crazy.
I kind of think of the two, like, big highlights that come out to mind, just especially because they were two Humagears that I really liked and that the show seemed to like a lot as well, were the old grandpa construction Humagear who had the busted up teeth, and the real short, kind of chubby firefighter Humagear guy.
Oh my god, I love the firefighter Humagear. So I love them all.
They're great. They're all great. But yeah, the fact that there is so much diversity between any two Humagear, it was very cool, because you are right. Yeah, a lot of things would kind of just fall into a trope of having all of their robots either look the same or, like you said, follow whatever traditional beauty standards were. And the fact that you really could get a Humagear of all shapes and sizes was super neat.
All shapes, sizes, backgrounds, etc. I thought it was cool. So I thought it was kind of cool seeing, so, like, it's not remotely a stretch to take the Humagears as an allegory for minorities whatsoever. So to actually have a Humagear that is minority in Japan is cool. Like, I enjoy that drives the allegory especially further. And I also like this interest. I don't know, that episode specifically, like, I don't think New Age is the way to put it, but basically, like, having a black Humagear utilizing, like, the positivity of his rap music for a political message about acceptance and unity.
It's very cool.
Yeah, I really, really liked it.
And it kind of has the additional cherry of, and we wouldn't know this if we hadn't put into it, but it's, you have that additional bonus of, it's not like they specifically flew in a black dude to fulfill this role or anything. He's a Japanese person. He was at least half Japanese. He was born in Japan. He's a Japanese actor. It kind of adds this air of legitimacy to the notion that, like, for all intents and purposes, DJ Check It Out could have been any Japanese actor who could rap, and it's just they happened to be able to find a black one, and so they went with him, and that helps it as well, I feel like, a little bit.
Yeah, and this guy had a bit of a legacy since his father had already worked on the
Yeah.
show 50 years ago. And there's also just... I also just, like you said, he is a Japanese man who fit the role, and it just also is another one of those reminders that I feel like people in the West don't think enough about, and that, and of course, this is close to my heart too, but specifically East Asian countries, and in this context Japan explicitly, are not 100% monoliths. There are other races of people that live there. There are black people that live in Japan. There are black people that are born in Japan. They are a minority there, but they exist there.
They're real, yeah.
Like, so I feel like you said, there might be this misconception that they, like, flew in a random guy from elsewhere to play this role. And, like, I don't think I'd be mad about that necessarily, unless they were, like, super hard banking on some sort of, like, racial profile or something. But because you know, it's not unusual in movies and stuff for when they're interested in portraying something authentically, you get the authentic actor to play it, that sort of thing. But again, like, I feel like this plays in well to representing those themes of Humagears being an allegory for minorities, and I don't know, it's not my ring, but I like DJ Check It Out. Yeah. That's my bottom line, I guess.
That was kind of my bottom line too. Really was just like, I like DJ Check It Out. I don't think they were being racist about the way they handled him in the show. And, you know, just being bombarded with that take apropos of nothing on a random day on Twitter was not fun.
Yeah, I don't know, because I can only think that it's like, I don't know, was it just black guy raps or something? Was that the take?
No, I mean, it was specifically about, like, the way they handled his arc. Like, I guess they just wanted him to get, like, special treatment because he was black or something. Like, that was truly the thing that confused me the most, because I was like, they gave him the exact same arc every other Humagear had. Like, it was literally the exact same.
Yeah, like, I guess he didn't get pushed into a water fountain or something, but he faced terrible discrimination, and he had proved the dishonor of his opponent, and nobody would take it seriously. He had been entirely good-natured and faithful and honorable, and people still wouldn't give his claim the recognition that it deserved.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just like, I truly did not understand what point they were trying to make. It just did seem kind of like thinly veiled Toei racist, and it was like, clearly not.
Maybe not in this scenario, like, I don't know. I'm all for hearing a nuanced discussion, and I won't say I haven't seen past Toei works that are but, you know, I feel like DJ Check It Out warrants at least a nuanced discussion, if nothing else. I don't know if this is a very clear, it is kind of situation.
Yeah. And that was the other thing too, is like, I never saw any, like, dissenting opinions. It was like 5 or 6 separate posts of, like, different people all saying the exact same thing.
Yeah, I can't help but wonder if maybe part of that is just, you know, social media. It's not the best look on social media to argue against something being racist, because social media doesn't take well to nuanced discussion about those kind of sensitive topics.
That being said, unless you have anything else that you specifically want to talk about or call out. I think I've got like one more category to go through, and then we can just about call it, huh?
Sure.
Okay. So if you have nothing else specifically you would like to call out, then I am interested in your thoughts on the suits and kind of effects and stuff in general, because it's certainly a far cry from what we have in Ichigo, especially with having the multiple forms, multiple suits for one rider sort of thing. What was your thought on kind of the design philosophy of everything going on here in 01, both for our riders and for our kaijin?
Okay, well, first of all, I gotta say, and I don't know how much of this is just like whiplash from my major Kamen Rider experience being mostly from the Showa era, but I find myself more drawn to the simpler designs than the more complex ones.
That makes sense.
So, like, for instance, I particularly love 01 and 02 as some of the more, like, simplistic designs that 01 has.
Yeah.
But I do like ones that do put, like, an extra emphasis on, like, silhouette. Like, I'm a real big fan of Thouser's head.
Yeah, Thouser has a good head.
I enjoy Thouser's head a lot. Yeah. He looks like a stand.
He does look like a stand.
He does look like a stand, and I love it. I mean, a lot of Kamen Riders look like stands.
A little bit, yeah.
Or I guess technically, it would be vice versa, since Kamen Rider came before stands. Well, it came before JoJo even started, technically, by a good, 10 years.
The point is they probably influence each other.
Yeah, for sure. Like, these are behemoths of media in Japan, and it is an honor to take influence from either or both at some point during your career.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to see, like, this far bulkier, more armor-like look that they've got in the modern era. I don't dislike it remotely. It's just very different from Ichigo and V3, wherein, like, they wear a helmet and maybe, like, a padded vest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's definitely a very different kind of design philosophy. I think looking at the design philosophies just in general of a lot of different Kamen Riders is super unique, just to kind of go over what ideas they sort of had, what kind of sort of a silhouette, sort of an overall look they wanted to give to a specific writer. I think it's super cool to get into that.
Yeah, I think my only, like, qualm is that for half of these, I can't tell what the motif is until, like, I see them transform. Like, Horobi, for instance. Yeah. I would need to see the transformation to know that there's a scorpion theme.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
And a Vulcan, he's a wolf. Oh, he looks like Pepsi Man, though.
He does look more like Pepsi Man than a wolf. That's I will definitely give you that. Yes.
They're good, fun designs that I enjoy, but I just feel like the theming isn't thoroughly incorporated. Though for some of the other ones, it's a lot closer. Like Aruto, though, I do feel like the design harkens quite a bit to the original Kamen Rider designs. It is very intentional because he's also got the grasshopper theme. And I feel like it works pretty well. I feel like Valkyrie's designs are also very, very distinctly clear compared to some of the other ones as well. It's, you know, exactly what she is every time.
Yeah, it's, I have to say I really did like a lot of the suits that came out of 01. I did really like the way original 01 looks and how it kind of harkens back to that original Kamen Rider design. while still sort of modernizing in a way.
I wish we played around more with the glow-in-the-dark
effect. That was a super cool effect that
really?
We just didn't use very much. At least until we got to Shining
it was, like,
Hopper.
Mostly... Yeah, Shining Hopper and the eye catchers, mostly. Mm-hmm. I wanted more, like, glow-in-the-dark fights. It would have been really cool. It would have been
insanely cool, but I also recognize probably difficult to do.
Yeah, but, I don't know. It's still cool. Like, overall, I have a very positive view of the suits. I think they're pretty cool, but I find myself drawn to the ones that are simpler or far more clear with their theming, I guess.
So which suits would you say you necessarily preferred better between, like, the Kamen Rider quote-unquote proper suits and the Force Risers suits?
Like for each rider?
Just in general.
Like, in general? Well, like I said, I love base 01 very much. It is such a clean look. And, like, for Yaiba, I can't really choose because all three of her looks are equally good and effective. Yeah. Man, Fuwa's looks are pretty different between them, and so were a lot of 01s as well. But I feel like a lot of those were... well, no, I guess the clarity of each transformation definitely varied. Like the gorilla one was very clear, of course. I'm suddenly remembering, what was it, Hawk, whatever Aruto used to fly, but the wings didn't flap. He didn't have wings, he just glides. And I thought that was a disappointment, and I'm glad that Jean ended up getting wings for his transformation when he flies. I just thought it was funny, because he's like, I need this power in order to be able to fly. He uses it, it's a bird, and he gets no wings, but he just floats, and also it gets stolen immediately, so whatever. I want to like some of the... Well, no. I shouldn't say I want to like some of the other 01 transformations more, because I feel like bits and pieces of them I really like, and it just depends on which one, how effective I feel they were, or if I felt like they might have felt a little overdone or something. Yeah. Like Shining Hopper was really, really cool. I really like the grasshopper legs that are like coming out of his shoulders and out of his torso that kind of bend over to become like these spiky armor plates.
Yeah, I have to say, Shining Hopper, and then especially obviously, Metal Cluster, Hopper, I think are probably some of my favorite suits from the show. The silhouette that Shining Hopper cuts specifically is incredibly strong. Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about the way that Shining Hopper looks that I really enjoy every time I look at it. And Metal Cluster Hopper specifically, it has the benefit of just being a really clean looking suit. It's super pristine. I love the fact that they don't go like super crazy with the colors. The fact that it's just that pure metal silver with the light green for the detailing is such a great look.
It's good, though I feel bad because every time I look at it, it looks like it's smiling, even though it's kind of a corruption form.
It does look like it's smiling, yeah.
It's got a little bit of a smile. I love the shoulders on that one.
Yeah, the shoulders on Metal Cluster Hopper are also very good.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess in the amount of transformations that 01 has, that also really reminded me of Revice or what I've seen of it as like my only two modern Kamen Rider experiences, and be like, oh my god, I really just feel like there's a new transformation every episode. Though I've since learned that it feels like Revice is going extra hard.
It really
in
does feel
comparison.
like Revice is going extra hard, yeah.
Yeah, and to be fair, I guess Revice is like an anniversary series attempting to pay homage to other forms, as opposed to 01 having these unique forms. They just really front-loaded them, I guess.
Yes.
So... Oh my god, I forgot about Mammoth.
You forgot, I can't believe you forgot about Mammoth.
Satellite robot. Oh my god. Yeah, because I think we got used like twice in the whole show.
Something like that. That's probably about as much budget as they had.
It's so funny.
Yeah, Breaking Mammoth was wild.
Just this giant mech. So we decided Kamen Rider gets a robot too.
Fuck it.
I enjoy it.
Yeah, I certainly don't dislike Breaking Mammoth in any way, shape, or form, but it is just very silly.
It's incredibly silly. I guess overall, maybe my favorite look for Aruto might be 02. I'm a real sucker for that scarf emoji.
Yeah, I was gonna say Zero.
That is also a 2.
02 is very good. Yeah.
It's really, really good.
Would you say that's...
I think Arc 1 is my favorite arc form, probably.
Very fair. Arc 1 is just a good-ass suit, is the thing. I think both of the arc suits really are very good, but I think Arc 1 specifically edges out, because Arc 0 is still really good. I actually really like Arc 0 and the super broken motif that it has to it, where you know, you can kind of tell that this is the form of a destroyed thing that has almost sort of been resurrected. But specifically the Arc 1 suit, it's extra cool because white is traditionally, you know, if you know anything about kind of, I guess, color coding or color theory, you know, white is usually a color that is used to symbolize things that are, you know, good. You know, it's used for, you know, pristineness and cleanliness as a motif. And that's kind of what it is used for here as well. But the fact that it is on the bad guy, and it's a visual indication of how they intend to sort of sterilize the world, instead of, you know, what a white would traditionally be used for, I think is super strong. It's just, it's real striking. It's one of those suits that, you know, you look at and you're just like, wow. And I like that they kept the messed up eye motif.
Yeah. It's really the symbol of Arc, after all, I suppose.
And it's a good-ass symbol, damn it. What would you say, if you had to guess, was probably your favorite suit?
In the whole show? Probably either Hornet, 02, or Thouser.
Fair. Thouser is definitely one of those ones that's up for me. I really like the Thouser suit.
And what would be your favorite?
Thouser up there for sure. Like I said, Shining Hopper and Metal Cluster Hopper, also up there. Probably, as much as I do like Arc 01, and as much as I was complimenting Arc 01 just now, I do think I like the Arc 0 suit just a little bit more. And I'm going to look it up now because I don't remember the name specifically for it. But I have a feeling this is probably the one I like. Yeah. Burning Falcon is another one as well. Jin's second form. I really like Burning Falcon.
Yeah, it's very, very good. I like that he actually gets wings.
Love that he actually gets wings. Although I will say, as much as we haven't talked about them a lot, I do really like the Force Razor suits. I like the general design philosophy around them. The kind of motif of them just like kind of being like a base suit with these metal parts like literally strapped onto them. There's just something about like the little pieces of armor and seeing the straps crisscrossing the body that I find really visually appealing. But yeah, I think. Do you have any final thoughts as we go ahead and roll this one on out?
I feel like my main thought is just reiterating that, good lord, the whiplash from Showa to
pretty
Reiwa
wild, right?
It's wild. It is a world of difference. Like, and I'm extremely curious to see some intermediate series to see how we got from point A to point B. And having seen some of Revice, it's very clear that they've firmly established a set of, I guess, conventions for the show, at least of this era.
Yeah, they seem...
And having seen...
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry?
I was...
Oh, and having seen...
Do it. You do yours.
Okay. Having seen some of V3, I feel like there was an immediate establishment of a better criterion from Ichigo that just did not exist at all at the time. Like, not to give too much away, but I guess to be kind of vague. Ichigo, if you watched it, you know there aren't really a whole lot of rules. We don't really know very well how Kamen Rider works, outside of a few, like, he's wind-powered, but
Calvin
explosions work. Yeah. Whereas, like, V3 isn't perfectly 100% established with a strict set of rules, but he has a much firmer understanding of what his powers can do, and the extent of those powers and those repercussions. Like, I'll give a brief example, just because it was brought up in Just by Gopher during our last podcast recording about how the song in the last episode we watched referenced Kamen Rider's ability to make tornadoes. Not really a thing that happens, or at least as far as we've ever seen.
I've never seen him make a tornado.
But V3 kind of has that power. But it is like, I'm sorry, I forget the exact term for this kind of thing, but it's one of those things where you expel the entirety of your power and you're left vulnerable.
Okay, kind of like an overclock.
Yeah. So he is able to unleash all of his power in a single blow, and they have a strict rule that he can't transform for 3 hours afterward.
There you go.
So it makes like a big wind tornado explosion thing that is a little limited visually on the special effects of the time, but you know, it's a wind explosion.
Right. Yeah,
basically.
it's there and it has an established set of rules to it. Unlike...
Yeah, whereas Kamen Rider Ichigo has nothing.
I was just gonna say, in regards to like Revice and everything, it really does seem like they've got like a super hard handle on how they want to handle stuff in Reiwa. I do feel like Heisei, Heisei Phase 2 is, I think there's an argument to say it is a little homogenized. There's definitely still some experimentation in there. I think probably not as much as there might be in Heisei Phase 1, although I wouldn't really be able to say because I haven't watched much in the way of Heisei Phase 1. Heisei Phase 2 definitely has this kind of notion of, like, them having hit their stride. You know, there are still certain things that you can expect at certain times, but other than that, there's still a looseness to it, especially in the storytelling. but Reiwa, even with how different the three Reiwa series have been, because they truly have all been pretty far cries from each other, Reiwa's just got this really solid feeling of establishment to it, where it's like they know going in very well what they want to do and how they intend to do it, and I do appreciate that.
Yeah, very, very far cry to have like an actual established story going in from Ichigo's incredibly obviously by the seat of their pants
week to week.
Like, yeah, it's
not to
wild.
dunk on Ichigo
I don't know
in
how
any
they
way,
did it.
because it's still a great show.
It's kind of impressive,
yeah,
really.
It is amazing the way this show was made. It's absolutely insane, but like in a good way, in the best way, really.
You are admirable.
You are admirable. I think that's gonna do it for us, huh? Do you have any closing thoughts or anything that you would like to tell the peoples? And just anything else you want to muse about 01 about?
If you haven't heard this about it, I do want to reiterate that this is the first official licensed sale of Kamen Rider in the West, and
first time in 50 years.
Yeah, like since Master Rider.
Well, yeah, I guess since Master Rider,
to my knowledge. Yeah, so
I
would
wait,
like
there
to
was Dragon
reiterate,
Knight.
please. Oh,
I always forget about Dragon Knight.
Well, in any case, clearly this hasn't gained a strong, officially licensed foothold in the West yet, so if you are someone who lives outside of Japan in an English-speaking nation, and you are interested in supporting the official licensed release of Kamen Rider, please, 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 I urge you to, if you have the money to spare, support the official Blu-ray release of 01. If you can't, you can still watch 01. It's still up on Shout Factory for free,
I believe so,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, so you can still watch it if you'd like, and if you'd like to contemplate buying it after watching it, that's fine too. I would just like to urge you to consider it. Your money is proving that people want this.
Yeah. You know, there are so many great seasons of Kamen Rider, and a lot of them like are very difficult to get your hands on. And Shout Factory has been doing a really good job of trying to bring some of that over, between being able to bring over Ichigo, getting the rights to bring over, not in the physical official form, but I know they're going to be starting, or have already started at this point, airing a subbed version of Ryuki, which Dragon Knight was based on. We of course have the physical release of 01, so truly, if you want to have more accessible Kamen Rider that is not like being fan translated and put up for torrents on the internet, if you want to get your Kamen Rider a little easier than that, you know, vote with your dollars. Let Toei know that this is a business model that they could support, especially because this is not in any way, shape, or form a bad value for your money whatsoever. You are getting every single episode of the show dubbed, and you're getting a movie and some special episodes as well. It's all dubbed, it's all on Blu-ray, and it's like $50. It is truly like a value that is worth what you are spending. And it'll help Toei know that this is something that we want, and hopefully that'll make your life and our lives a little bit easier as we continue to watch Kamen Rider.
For your consideration.
Yeah, for your consideration. Speaking of for your consideration, if this is somehow the first thing that you have seen of this podcast, and you haven't watched any of the other, please consider going and checking us out. Long Time Watcher, First Time Writer is the podcast. You can find us on various places. We mostly upload to YouTube and SoundCloud right now, but we are currently working on trying to get our RSS feed set up in other places, so hopefully soon we will be one of those podcasts that can be found wherever you get your podcasts. We have a Patreon, which if you are so inclined, you can consider pledging to us on Patreon to help us continue to make the show. If you want to get our other two co-hosts to watch 01 with us, you can pledge in at the $10 a month tier. And then when we are done with Kamen Rider Ichigo, we are going to let our patrons put up suggestions for what Kamen Rider series that we watch next. And then those who are at the $10 and up tier will get to vote on that poll. So, you get to have your say there as well. Please check out Beedrops on Twitter at BeedropsArt, on twitch.tv/Beedrops. They are a wonderful artist. They do fantastic artwork, and you should go check it out. Check out Bee's Patreon, where you can get wonderful art in the form of stickers and pinups and all sorts of goodies. I'll leave the whole explanation of that for you to find when you go check out the Patreon, because you should do it. And while you're checking out B and stuff that they like, and stuff that they work on, and stuff that I like, go watch Tales of Harbor. It is a fantastic actual play of the OVA tabletop RPG system. B stars in it as the wonderful Victoria. Our editor Wurzy is the DM, and so you are helping the show when you support that show as well, just by way of giving us moral support, which we could certainly use.
In these trying times,
truly. That being said, thank you very much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this little kind of bonus episode. If you got this far and are about to type a comment about how you got spoiled, sorry. We warned you.
I'm sorry.
I can truly only be so sorry, because we did warn you. If you haven't watched 01, but you listen to this and now you're thinking about checking it out, again, sorry for the spoilers, but we warned you. But, go check it out. You can find it on Shout Factory now for free, and you can just watch it. It's so easy. Other than that, thank you very much. We love you. Thank you for listening. Hope you have a wonderful day. And as always, remember, if you can't believe in God and you can't believe in Buddha, you can always believe in Kamen Rider.